You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show with me, Sara, certified business coach and creator of the Rapid Expansion Method. I thought it would be really fun to do an episode just based on the investments that I have made in my business, because I find that people grossly underestimate the amount of investments that it takes to really be able to grow a business, especially in the beginning. If you are one of those people who's telling yourself, I can't invest any money because I haven't made any money in my business, that's exactly why you aren't making any money, because you are not investing in it, you're not believing in it, and you are not allowing your business to grow. What I always say is a really, really great and healthy investment marker for your business is to invest around 20% of what you want to have in revenue in order to really see your business grow to the point where it is generating that type of revenue. Of course, every single business is different. Some people invest more than this, and it's totally fine. I actually say anywhere between 20 and 30% is awesome. But in the beginning, it's going to be even more than that. But I can promise you that it is all so incredibly worth it. And if you have had a bad investment, if you've ever made a bad investment in your business or an investment that you're not super happy about, that didn't get you the results that you wanted, there's also a really amazing perspective or way to look at this where you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You don't have to become really angry about it. In fact, this is a fact of entrepreneurship. As long as you can feel comfortable with making an investment that might not turn out the way you really, really want it to, investments are either going to completely change your business and create a great ROI, or they're going to teach you a lesson, and they're going to teach you a really powerful lesson, and that's the reason why you needed to make them. So I want to do this podcast episode to really help you see that there is no such thing as a bad investment, even if it doesn't generate the ROI or generate the return that you really wanted from it. And I'm going to talk to you about all of the investments that I have made to date and which ones have probably not been the greatest, but at the same time, they were still worthwhile because, like I said, they still taught me a lesson. So I'm going to start to rewind here all the way back into 2015. I know it seems like a long time ago. I'm going to try to remember each and every one of these investments that I've made. And also, I probably won't be able to tell you all of them because that's going to take a really long time. You probably don't want to hear that. But I am going to tell you about the most important ones, the ones that were memorable enough to mention on the podcast. So 2015, my very first investment in my business was my website. And I really wanted to have a nice professional looking website. And so after doing a blog on WordPress.com, I decided to invest in my own website. I invested in really, really great website software. It was an amazing learning experience for me because I got to learn how to do websites. And that was something that I did not know how to do before. But unfortunately, as most of us know now, doing a website is not going to get you clients. And so even though I had the website, even though I was, taking a few mini courses here and there, I didn't fully understand how to magnetize people to me online. And so it wasn't until I invested in my very first group coaching program that was specifically around branding that I really started to understand how the online world works. And so that was my very first big investment. Totally worth it. Felt so good. I was around an amazing group of women. And that's how I started to understand messaging, branding, marketing. But it still wasn't enough. It still was not enough at that specific point in time to really get me consistent clients. And I struggled for a few months after that. I didn't really know what to do. I was downloading a whole bunch of checklists and freebies and all of that kind of stuff. And then I stumbled upon one specific coach that I really, really resonated with. And I decided to join her beta money mindset program. And that completely transformed my business. That was my very first experience with one-to-one coaching. It was my very first experience with investing in a business coach who understood my niche and who also understood the energetics of running a business, not just the strategy. And about 3 weeks after I signed up with her, I had signed on 3 high-paying clients. And within a few weeks after that, I was fully booked. It was an incredible experience. This is why I will always invest in one-to-one coaching. And at each level of my business, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but at each level of my business, I always invest in a one-to-one coach because I know just how effective and how important it is. All right, so I ended up working with that coach for a really long time because I loved her and I loved how much she challenged me. But this is another thing that I think a lot of people seem to underestimate is that alongside working with her, and through working with her, I was able to leave my 9 to 5. I was able to get fully booked a few different times. But alongside working with her, I was also investing pretty heavily in Facebook ads. And I was making sure that I had over 100 people coming into my community every single month through ads. So I was doing 2 things at that time. I was investing in my business coach and I was investing in ads. A lot of people want to only invest in one. And this is why I teach in my group coaching and in my one-to-one coaching programs that you're going to want to have either Facebook ads running for your business or some sort of organic marketing where you're doing it yourself, which takes a long time, or you're hiring someone. It could be a free intern. It could be an assistant, an offshore assistant, but you want to make sure that you have either time or money invested in your growth. So at that time, I was investing in her and I was investing in my ads. When I stopped working with her, I almost immediately started working with a sales funnelist. And it came at the recommendation of my business coach. She was just like, this is your next step. You want to hire someone who understands funnels. What I didn't realize at the time was that my business was way too small for me to be hiring someone to work out and map out all of these extensive funnels. And in retrospect, another thing that I did not realize when I hired this new person was that I actually knew almost as much, if not more than her, about business strategy at that point. Because I had done so much of my own work. I had worked so much with my coach. I had already had the other branding course. I was taking a few other courses online. And so at that point in time, I knew a little bit more than her. I decided to listen to her for a lot of the things that she was recommending to me because of the fact that I hired her. However, in retrospect, I knew more about the situations than she did. So that was not the greatest investment in my business. And looking back, that was definitely a lot more of a learning experience for me. And it really taught me that investing in higher quality programs and people was the only way to go. So my next big investment after that investment was a mastermind. It was a membership program in combination with a mastermind. And this was a really cool investment, you guys, because I started to surround myself with other really successful female entrepreneurs. We had a coaching call every single week. We held each other accountable. We supported each other. We did referrals for each other. It was a really, really great experience. And I am really glad that I decided to go for that and that I decided to just invest in a new experience because that really showed me the power of networking and the power of community. And in specific, it wasn't just the membership because the membership itself, doesn't usually give you a network and it doesn't help you create valuable connections unless that membership has some sort of weekly call or accountability or networking attached to it where you can make genuine, lasting relationships. So in my books, that was a great investment. I'm really, really glad that I did that one. And then when I was thinking about transitioning into business coaching, I also hired on a complete whim a money mindset coach, but in specific, a money mindset coach who said that she was psychic. And I was so intrigued by this. And I was so intrigued by her methodology that she had a few spots open for this beta program, and I wasn't even on her email list. I wasn't even in her Facebook group. I just knew that I had to do it. And so I signed up for it, and it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved everything that I learned from her. I loved all of the modalities she taught in. She really, really helped me to understand what was going on in my own subconscious. And she really helped me to take charge of what it was that I desired to create in my business without holding back. And in fact, while I hired her, I actually fully booked out my first business and launched my second business and signed on 2 high-paying clients within the first month of launching my second online business. So that was definitely a really, really amazing investment that I made. So at this point in time, it's about 2018. And I decided that I really wanted to do Facebook ads again. And I hired a Facebook ads strategist because once again, in my head, I thought that these people were going to have more knowledge than me. And so this was also a huge, huge lesson on my part and a continual lesson that I have continued to learn throughout all of my investments that I've made was that I hired this person thinking that they had more knowledge than me. However, as it turned out, I actually had more knowledge than them because I had been doing Facebook ads for years. But what this person did really, really help me with was the spiritual aspect of running Facebook ads, which is not something that I thought that she was going to be helping me with at all. I just hired her to make sure that I had cheaper ads. We got really great ads going. But the most valuable part of my coaching with her was all of her email support and my one-to-one calls that I had with her. And I remember precisely at one specific point in time when I was really exhausted of getting on the phone with people who were just tire kickers, who just did not want to move forward, who were just terrified of investing in themselves. She literally told me, "You are worth so much more than that. Just stop paying attention to them and stop giving them your energy." And I did that. And within a few weeks, I got people who were paying me even higher rates than the ones that I kept on going after those people for. And so that was a really great investment because although it wasn't necessarily something that completely changed my perspective on what I hired her for, she still really, really helped me in terms of my spiritual approach to my business. It was incredible. Now, after hiring her, I spent a few months going solo, and sometimes I do this. I spend a few months where I really, really love integrating the things that I've learned. Unless I have a really great opportunity on my hands, then I'll invest in something else. But at that specific moment in time, I knew that I was ready to hire more help. And so that was the year that I started hiring assistants. And unlike coaching and mentorship, assistants are so incredible because they just do some of your work for you. However, what I did not realize when I was hiring assistants is that I had no idea how to lead and how to manage a team. But I still didn't know that I was terrible at it. So I had hired these assistants. I was having a hard time with it. And I hired my Facebook ad strategist. I stopped working with her. And then things were going great. I was hitting 10K months. I was really, really happy with my client results, really happy with everything that I was doing in my business. And then I felt this urge inside of me to go further, to go deeper, to play bigger. And so I knew at that specific point in time that I was after my next coach, that I needed, once again, that one-to-one support, and I wanted to make sure that I found a really, really great mentor. So I spent a few months getting a feel for everyone who was out there, and in specific, looking for someone who knew how to scale to multiple six figures, because that was the next goal for me. So I didn't want to just hire any type of business coach. I wanted to hire someone who understood what I was about to do because they had been there before. And in specific, I was thinking about getting pregnant. And so I wanted to make sure that I hired someone who understood how to navigate business and children, and in specific, younger children. And so I found my match, I hired her, and it was an incredible experience. But, and this is what I find so interesting sometimes with investments, and in specific investments with mentors, is that I hired her to help me out with my group coaching program and with scaling it. And she gave me a lot of strategy. She gave me a lot of specifics on that. But the thing that she helped me with the most was growing and managing my team. And that was an investment that I made in 2018 that I am still reaping the benefit of today in terms of how I lead my team. When you are growing into a multiple six-figure business, everything is about your team. Everything is about the way you train your team, the way you manage your team, the way you understand your vision and communicate that to your team. And that was one thing that she really drilled into my brain. So that was a phenomenal investment. I really, really enjoyed it. And then I got pregnant and I decided that I could not do any coaching at that specific moment in time. So instead, I really felt like I needed a copywriter. I really, really wanted to work with a copywriter. I wanted to see how different my conversions would be with a copywriter. And so I started researching copywriters, and I ended up hiring a few that summer. That was 2019. And you guys, this is so interesting because my coach always used to tell me that my copy was really good, but I never believed her. I didn't believe her. I wanted to see for myself what this beautiful world of copywriting was. And so I hired someone to do a sales page for me and to do an entire email funnel for me. And then I launched a group program again. And what I find so interesting is that my emails, the emails that I wrote, actually got more engagement and more clicks on them than the emails that my copywriter wrote. She created an incredible sales page, and I am still using that sales page, and I love it. And I'm still using her emails. But that experience was not something that created a massive ROI for me, and it created a huge shift in terms of my messaging. However, it was such an incredible learning experience for me because from that point onwards, I realized that I was really good at writing copy and that I did not need someone else to quote unquote fix that area of my business. In fact, what I needed more was to get deeper into the relationships that I was creating with my community. My next big investment after that, and this is when I was about 8 months pregnant, I remember looking at my website and just dreading it. I had built my entire website on my own. I was updating all of my sales pages on my own, and I knew there was time for me to get a facelift. And I also went into that investment understanding that hiring a web designer was not going to magically make more people come to my website. It may have not even had more people impressed with my website because my website was already pretty good. I mean, I had spent about 4 years tweaking all of the things that I knew about WordPress. But I decided to hire a web designer anyways. And the reason why was not just about immediate ROI or immediate conversions. It was because I really wanted to embody that multiple six-figure entrepreneur who had a gorgeous website, who had really, really high quality stuff. I wanted people to feel like there was such a high quality to everything that I do, from my branding to my lives, to my communication, to my content, to my graphics, that I knew that having this new website was also going to help me feel like I was that high quality entrepreneur. And so I got the website done. I'm still completely in love with it. And it was a great investment. I really, really enjoyed working with my web designer. Now, at that specific point in time, I had my baby. I decided to take a few months off of work, but I also wanted to experiment with a new platform. I had never been on LinkedIn before. And this is an example of a bad investment. So, right before I went on maternity leave, I decided to research how to go about working on LinkedIn. And I decided to take a less expensive approach to it. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to hire someone who's worked for someone else who understands how to do this. And I hired someone, and it was not her fault at all. But once again, this is coming back to the quality of service. And I was entrusting someone who had only been working for other people to basically implement an entire strategy on a platform that I had never used and a strategy that I did not know. And I expected this to do really, really well. And it didn't do well at all. And the reason why it did not do well was because there was no leadership within the strategy. I was not the greatest leader to lead my assistant through that strategy on LinkedIn because of the fact that I had never been on LinkedIn before. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was entrusting her, and I was also trying to lead her through something that I didn't really know how to lead her through. And so we ended up doing that strategy. We ended up working together for a few months, and I can't even say that I got a really great ROI from it because I don't think that anything ever came from it. But I did turn that all around. And my biggest lesson there was that if I don't know what I'm doing, I cannot teach someone else to know. And there are specialists in each and every area of online business. And you're going to want to hire those specialists because here's the thing. Later on, so in the beginning of 2020, I did end up hiring specialists who knew that platform really, really well. And I made my ROI back from them, and I invested so much more in them than I did in my assistant. But I made my ROI with them, and I started booking consistent higher paying clients with them within a matter of weeks. And I was working with my assistant on LinkedIn for months without really seeing an ROI. Isn't it crazy? Because we were still doing very similar things, but when you're working with an expert, it doesn't matter how much you're paying them. When you're seeing an ROI, you're going to be getting such greater results from the person who knows what they're doing versus the person who is really trying. It's not their fault, but who doesn't 100% understand it because they're not taking the lead. So you want to make sure that you have a leader in your corner every time that you do make a new investment in your business. And if the leader is not you, you need to find a leader who's going to lead you through to create a better result. And so that was one of my next investments, and it was really, really good. I made my investment back within a few weeks, and not to mention that was now a strategy that I could teach to my clients because it worked really well, and I was getting on a lot of really amazing sales calls and booking a lot of really amazing clients. In fact, that's when my income started to double. Now, right before that investment, I was also looking into different coaches, looking into different strategies to do for my business. I ended up in the beginning of 2020 trying to do a completely new strategy in my business where I was focusing on a whole bunch of lower cost programs and really filling up lower cost programs. And I saw this coach who did it really, really well. She was doing that strategy really well. And at one point in time, she was offering a beta coaching program. And so I was really excited about this. I took on the opportunity. And what I learned from that experience was that, one, her coaching style was just not compatible with me. And two, it wasn't at the quality level that I was used to when I was coached by really, really high quality coaches. And so what ended up happening there was a huge disconnect in terms of what I was expecting from the package that I purchased versus what I actually got. And no one likes being in that situation. Everyone hates having that investment where you feel like you're getting one thing and you're given all of these extra bonuses, and then you actually go to purchase the program and half of the bonus links don't work. The training that they said that they would give you was not, it was just like a pre-recorded training from a few years ago, and it didn't really make much sense. And it was like an hour and a half long, but it wasn't actually value packed full of information. And so now you're stuck just like sifting through all of these low quality things. And that to me was a huge lesson, because I realized right then and there that there is nothing between me and other people who are already doing the things that I want to do. In fact, I actually believed that I had a much higher quality service, and I created much higher quality programs that were more results focused and really got to the core of what my people wanted quicker. And that gave me a ton of confidence. So even if that specific investment was not the greatest investment that I've made for my business, it still gave me so much confidence in what I already knew and the type of coach that I wanted to be, and the type of programs that I wanted to sell, and the type of quality and integrity that I wanted to give to others. And so I'm now at about March 2020. And I remember January of 2020 being a little bit confused, a little bit lost with my business. Having my parents in Nicaragua, we went on a trip to the beach. We ended up spending a week at the beach in this really, really beautiful oceanfront apartment. And I remember my mom just taking my son, my 4-month-old son, with her every single morning and saying, Sarah, just go for a run on the beach. Just go for a walk. Do whatever you need to do. And I remember going for runs on this beach at like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was so beautiful. And thinking to myself, man, I know that something so much bigger is coming here, but I don't really know where to turn. Because at that time, my husband and I were building our home, the home that I am now sitting in, the home office that I dreamt of sitting in. I'm sitting in it right now. And we were pretty short on cash. And we didn't know how much of the home to build. At this point in time, no one was really talking about the coronavirus yet. And I remember thinking to myself that I was on the edge of something bigger, but that edge was going to have to ask of me something much bigger. It was a much bigger ask that I had to do, or a much bigger decision that I had to make inside of myself. And I knew that. And I knew that just like meditating on that beachfront. And it wasn't until about the end of February that I looked at my bank account, and I had like no money. Probably had about $2,000 in my bank account at the time. And I really wanted to sign up with this new marketing team. I really loved them. I got on a call with them. They were so aligned to everything that I did and everything that I was working on in my business. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying to make that decision, because I didn't have all the money to pay them for the 6-month long contract that I wanted to do. And by the way, I could have done a 3-month contract, but I decided to do a 6-month contract with them, because that's how certain I was that this was my next step. That's how certain I was that this was the path that I needed to be on. And within a few weeks of making that investment, COVID happened, and the entire world shut down. And I was freaking out even more at that point in time, because there I was in the middle of a 6-month investment. The world had seemed like it had just stopped. I was terrified that no one was going to invest in their business anymore. And oh my goodness, do I tell this new marketing company that I can no longer pay them? Do I ask them to put a pause on everything? Like, what is going to happen now? But instead, what I decided to do was just trust. And I kid you not, March of 2020, I think I hit like a $17,000 month, somewhere along those lines. And then April of 2020, I started hitting consistent $20,000 to $30,000 months in my business, all the way up until the end of 2020 and into the beginning of 2021. And that was from making an investment that felt super uncomfortable. It was very unknown. I had never performed the marketing strategy that this team was helping me with, so I didn't know the outcome of it, but I knew that it was my next step. I just knew that it was something that I had to do, and it paid off massively. It was the single best decision that I made in 2020 was to sign up with that team. And the reason why I tell you this is because I have learned so much over investing with so many different coaches, with so many different done-for-you services, with so many different assistants. What I know to be true is that when I make a decision based on the quality of service and the excitement that I have to do that service, regardless of the price of that service, that always produces such a better ROI for my business. And I'm talking about like the difference between signing up for a $500 assistant and getting none of it back and signing up for an $8,000 program and making $50,000 in return. You might think that that $8,000 program is so much more risky, but in fact, that $500 that I invested, that was the money that technically, quote unquote, went down the toilet. Not the 8,000, because the 8,000 really helped to uplevel me. And so that was a really pivotal moment for my business when I started to figure that out. But that was not the end of my quote unquote bad investments. And what I want to show you is there is never really an end to bad investments, because you need to keep on investing in your business to continue to grow, to continue to change, to continue to connect, to continue to find new people for your community. But you're never always going to know the right choice. And so in and around the summer of 2020, I hired a new assistant. I was really, really excited about this hire. And it went really well in the beginning, but it came crashing down. And it was one of the worst experiences I have ever had with hiring an assistant, to the point where we had to terminate the agreement. And one big thing that taught me was my own boundaries around other people and how I allow other people to treat me. And it was a really big growing up moment that I was no longer just everyone's best friend, that I now really needed to dominate the role of Sara, the CEO, and Sara, the leader. And what that also brought me to was it brought me back to that one coach that I had hired who really taught me the value of team and who taught me the value of making sure that I had really phenomenal team members on my team who were willing to go above and beyond for my business. And after that hiring disaster, I then went on to hire one of the best assistants that I have ever had. And that was such a blessing in disguise, because I had finally hired someone who understood my vision and who was also willing to take charge in my business. But I would have never known that that was what I needed had I not hired the bad assistant in the first place. So once again, every single bad investment that you have always becomes a lesson. And they are such important lessons that help you to expand even quicker the next time around. And so at this point, I'm in about the fall of 2020. I knew once again that at this point in time, I wanted to treat myself. I wanted to treat myself to high level coaching. I wanted to know what it felt like to really work with someone who had worked with really, really prominent people. in the coaching industry. And I wanted to know how it would feel to really scale at a level where I got a lot more of my own time back. And so in the fall of 2020, I hired a really, really high level business coach. And that was an incredible experience. I learned so much about embodiment from her, and I learned so much about how to grow a business that was really incredibly profitable, yet also did not demand all of my time from me. And that is a business coaching experience that I am still implementing, and I would likely still implement her strategy and really try to tweak it for months to come. And so there you have it. I have worked with countless coaches, mentors, strategists, done-for-you services over the course of the past 6 years of being in online business. And some of them were so much better than others. And the ones that weren't the greatest, I always learned something incredible from them that really allowed me to push to my next level that much faster the next time I made an investment. And I know that I am going to continue to invest in new things in my business because I need to create investments in my business to grow. I would have not gotten to multiple 6 figures had I been cheap with my business. It just would have never happened. I needed to learn those new strategies. I needed to hire a team to help me implement those new strategies. I needed to work on my mindset, and I needed to work with higher level coaches to do that. And when I look back on my investments and when I do audits from year to year, my investments are usually around the 20 to 30% mark of what I end up making that year, because I always know that in order for me to hit a certain level, I need to have a specific amount of support. And sometimes that's coaching, and sometimes that's a higher level done for you strategy. And the reason why I really wanted to share all of this with you is for you to get a back-end look of what it really takes to run a really big, successful internet business. Because so many people really, really underestimate these things. And what I also find is so many people invest in one thing, it wasn't the right thing for them, and then they're terrified of investing in something else. And they end up just kind of being at a standstill. They don't end up growing in their business. And what they don't understand, that it is not because of that bad investment. It is because of their mindset that is not allowing them to push forward and to try new things, because we will all make bad investments. And if we could all just normalize that as part of the picture, that when you're in business, you're always going to be spending money that doesn't work out. You will always spend money on things that do not generate the profit that you really wanted them to. But the more that you do that, the more you grow. And the more you grow and the more that you implement what you learn, which is so important, implement what you learn, the more that you start to understand what investments you need at which specific points in time in your business, and the more that you are going to grow, and the more that you take risks, the more that your business is going to grow with those risks. And so I hope that this has helped you. I would love to hear from you, to hear what you thought about this episode. Please follow me or send me a DM on Instagram. It's at Sara without an H, J Loureiro, which is Loureiro. Let me know what you think. Let me know, have you made investments in your business in the past that you've regretted? And what is preventing you from making that investment that you know is really going to help you take your business to the next level? Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.